In 1600 Japan, there was a samurai named Miyamoto Musashi. He's widely regarded as the greatest samurai who ever lived. He had over 60 duels with a sword and never lost once. He killed his first man when he was 13 years old. He died in his 60s, and at a certain point, he retired from dueling and fighting in the army, and he moved to a cave and lived in a cave until his death. I think he was around 61. He wrote a book called The Book of Five Rings, which is a treatise on his swordsmanship style and strategy. And his final chapter was called The Void, where he discussed emptiness and Zen and all of that. There's a Zen story related to a tea master. And one day, Musashi was in town and went to have some tea at this shop. And there was a renowned tea master who worked there that Musashi knew. And when he walked in and sat down, the tea master came up to him and was pouring tea and was shaking. And Musashi was perplexed by this, so he asked him, "Why are you shaking? Every time I come in here, you're a master. Everything is, all your moves are with grace and poise." And the tea master told him that earlier that day he had accidentally bumped into another samurai on the street while he was carrying his stuff to his job. And the samurai was very offended by this. And he told the tea master that, "I will not kill a defenseless man, so go find a sword and meet me at 4 o'clock, and we'll have a duel, because you have taken away my honor." So the tea master was very upset and very worried. And he was telling Musashi about this. And he's like, "What do I do?" And Musashi says, "You have no skill with a sword." And he said, "No, I don't know how to use a sword at all." And Musashi said, "Well, this will be the day that you die." And the tea master was very upset. And he said, "Maybe I could leave town and never come back." And Musashi said, "You can't do that. The samurai would track you down and kill you like a dog." And the tea master, even more frightened, said, "Maybe you could kill this man for me. You are much better than him, I'm sure." And Musashi rejected that as well. He said, "I cannot kill this man for you. That would be dishonorable for me and dishonorable for you." The tea master reluctantly understood that, but he was very frightened and almost in a panic at this point. And he's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" And Musashi told him, "You have no move to make. The only thing you can do is surrender. But you can surrender in an honorable way." And the tea master said, "How do I do that?" And Musashi said, "Go home before 4 o'clock and put on your nicest ceremonial tea robes. And when you go to meet this man, go with the idea of surrendering everything. And take this sword. And when you meet him in the road, in your best tea ceremony clothes, remember how you serve tea with poise and grace, and die in the same way. No fear, just give it all to him and die with honor. The Teamaster finally understood that there was no way out of this, and he was going to die. So he did as Musashi instructed, and he put on his best tea ceremony clothes. He took his time, and he stilled himself. And he took the sword that he didn't know how to use, and he went out into the road to meet the samurai. And the samurai was perplexed and impressed with the Teamaster's outfit and poise. And he looked at him with a kind of strange confusion. And the Teamaster, finding his stillness, raised the sword above his head. Because Musashi had told him to raise the sword above his head and give one good cut and then die with honor. So that's what he did. He raised the sword above his head. Everything, every strategy, every hope had been emptied out of him. And all there was left to do was to die. And he had accepted this. There was no way out. The samurai, even though he was much more skilled than the Teamaster, saw death in the Teamaster's eyes and saw how unafraid he had become and how still that he was. And it broke him. He said, "I cannot defeat this man." And he apologized for the offense and walked off. This is sort of what our minds try to do with awakening, realization. The mind always wants to negotiate. The mind wants to say what awakening is. It wants to have expectations about what it is. It wants to negotiate with reality about what it can be kept and what can't. It has hopes of transcending, of becoming better or more, or finally able to control life. But reality cannot be negotiated with. All the strategies that we have and all the conclusions that we make, we see in YouTube comments all the time or in forums where people say, well, I don't agree with this, or I think it's like this, or I think awakening is like this, or I think a realized person acts this way or does this thing. But reality doesn't care about your conclusions. It doesn't care about your victim narrative. It doesn't care about your hopes. It doesn't care about your assumptions of what awakening will be like. It asks you to give up everything, to give up all your conclusions and all your ideas and all your needs and wants. And it just asks you to accept life as it is. That's pretty much it. So when your mind is negotiating and has negotiated enough and realizes that it has no move to make, every strategy has failed. When you ask the teacher questions and then you say, but what about this? Or how do I do this? What happens if? Or I think it's like this. But the teacher is just a pointer. It is not the answer. You won't find the answer in a book or a YouTube video or a teacher. They're all pointings. You have to take responsibility for your own mind and see those processes closer and closer and closer. And you will learn at some point, no matter how long it takes to learn the lesson, that you cannot negotiate with reality, and that reality is undefeated. And once all those strategies have failed, what can happen is there can be a surrender, not from the person, but from the realization that there is no move to make. And when the mind sees that all its avenues have been cut off, then a natural surrender can happen. And you will drop to your knees and you'll realize conceptually there's no exit strategy. There's no way for the mind to solve this. And when that is seen really clearly, there can be a giving up and a bowing your head. And if the conditions are right, then reality can take the sword of clear seeing, timeless, centerless sword of attention. And then reality can wake up to itself and cut your conceptual head clean off.